Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Assemblyman Bill Magee, representing the 111th Assembly District, which includes all of Madison County, part of Otsego County, and part of Oneida County. And today with me, we have a special guest. We have Dean Norton, who is president of the New York Farm Bureau and has been since 2008. And we welcome you to the program, Dean.
Well, thank you, Bill. I appreciate the opportunity.
And tell me what a lot of Farm Bureau members all across the state are here in Albany this week, and tell me what that's all about.
What we're doing today, beginning of the week, is we're having a legislative reception this evening. All the county farm bureaus from across the state have brought in products that are grown in their counties or within their regions, and we're going to be having a reception. We've invited your associates in the Assembly, as well as members of the Senate and your respective staffs, to come have a taste of New York reception, see what our farmers are doing out in upstate New York and Long Island, taste some of our product, so that people understand the importance of agriculture here in New York. And then tomorrow, we have legislative appointments set up with both the Assembly and the Senate, and the farmers will be converging on the legislative office building, making sure that we get our priority issues out for the year and answer any of the questions that you or your cohorts will have.
Very good, Dean. And there is, I think 30,000 members of the New York Farm Bureau.
Approximately 30,000 members, correct.
And I have said many times before, it's really almost the only strong voice for New York agriculture that comes here to Albany annually.
We are the largest general farm organization in the state of New York. We represent all of agriculture here in New York. All varying degrees, whether you're an organic producer, conventional producer, dairy, fruits, vegetables. Our membership is vast, and we appreciate the opportunity that we can represent them here in Albany when we're talking to folks like yourself or other members in the Senate.
Yes, and as far as farm products are concerned, New York is high up there, number 1, 2, or 3. In different areas. I think they're now number 2 in maple syrup, perhaps?
Number 2 in maple syrup, behind Vermont. But if you talk to, I think, some of our New York growers, they say, well, Vermont's taking half of our maple syrup and calling it their own anyways.
Right.
But that's a thing we'll let higher people figure out. But yeah, we're number 2 in maple syrup, number 4 in dairy right now. We actually were number 3, but Idaho has gotten ahead of us recently. But we have a great opportunity in the dairy industry. As you very well know, there's 2 new yogurt processing plants planned in Western New York, which will mean a greater opportunity for our dairy producers here in New York to supply that plant. And actually, we're going to have to increase our production here in New York if we want to make sure it's all New York product going into those plants. So
yes, and we've been having some conversation with some people about how do we do that, because well, one of the major plants is right at the edge of my district. In fact, you can stand in their yard and look into my district.
Yeah.
And they have it's unbelievable the amount of production that they're doing right now, and with plans of doubling that as they go down the road.
And then that same facility is actually, if I understand, they're actually looking at other parts of the country to build plants there. But I think it's important for us in New York, if it's a New York plant, that we get New York raw milk into those plants. And we've got some plans. I know we've talked with you about some things about making sure that New York milk is getting into these plants, and that's something that we'll be talking to you folks about this week, some of our ideas.
Good, and I look forward to that conversation. We have focused recently, as you know, and I've worked with the Farm Bureau on trying to do things that make it easier to do farming in New York. Agriculture is the number 1 industry. Some would argue, no, it's second behind tourism, but we believe it's number 1. And,
it's number 1 for us, Bill.
Right. So we'll continue to advocate for it, and I have a legislation, Let New York Farm bill that decreases some certain fees and decreases the amount of paperwork, and we need to do that, I think, because farmers, pretty much the agriculture, particularly with dairy, it's a 7-day-a-week job. And because you don't tell the cows don't come to the barn tomorrow.
You got the day off, Bessie.
Yeah, right. That doesn't happen, so we have to be sensitive to that. Another thing, Dean, that I'm finding out, and I know that the Farm Bureau is working with me on it, is the urban population of the state wants New York farm products.
Yes.
And I've been down in New York City, visited some of their green markets and others, and the message was loud and clear. We want a New York farm product. Mm-hmm. And as I say, a lot of cases they're not getting it. I use as an example the Hunts Point market, which is the largest produce market in the world, is literally no New York farm products there. I was there on the 15th of August once, walked through and looked at all the vendors. Every one of them that had fresh green snap beans, they were from California. And there's something wrong with that picture.
Right. And I know, with your leadership and working with the Cuomo administration and with Speaker Quinn down in New York City and Mayor Bloomberg in New York City, I think we could all agree Hunts Point needs to be a little bit modernized. It was a facility that was built back in the early 60s. It's seen better days. We're working to make that a reality so that that market is more up to date and technologically advanced, but also so that our New York growers, whether they be from out in Erie County, it's the Eden Valley growers, or whether it's up in the North Country, with Great Lakes cheese, or whomever, that they have an opportunity to get those products into the Hunts Point market, so that New York consumers in New York City are getting New York product, not California snap beans that have traveled 3,000 miles to get there.
And we have talked about, and in fact, it started to move forward, building a New York only wholesale green market in New York. In fact, I just heard recently somebody is now considering it. I think it might be somebody within the city.
I think someone within the city has actually dusted off those plans, and it's something they're looking at again.
Well, that's good news, because we do need to do everything we can to get our products there. And not only do they want them, they're willing to pay a premium to get them. And our farmers certainly do need that, because we have a lot of different growers, and another, agriculture-wise, just a few minutes ago, I met with the New York State Association of Agricultural Fairs, 40 some of them, I believe there are, and they are important to agriculture in New York.
They're very important because, you look back, the beginning of the century, those fairs were competitions for farmers to come out and say, well, who's got the best cow, who's got the best pig, or who grew the better head of cabbage. But it's also an avenue where our friends in the urban New York and the suburbs, they can come to a county fair, they can see these products and see that they're actually grown by an individual by hand. It's not something that they can go to a shopping mall and go to a shopping plaza and buy. It's something that has to be made and grown.
Yes, and we have seen some changes in recent years at the state fair.
Yes.
A little more emphasis on agriculture, and I worked there once, and I used to get quite upset when somebody would hassle the exhibitors that are there. And I would say, look, these people are here exhibiting, and they're a big attraction to bring people in. People want to see the horses, they want to see the cows, they want to see the 4-H projects and so on. And you know what? If they wanted the first prize in every category they entered, they'd go home with less than they came with, because they just the premiums are minimal.
Right. It's a competition, and with most competitions, as you said, they're paying more to get to the competition than they're making if they win, and it's a pride thing. They're proudful of their industry. They're glad to be farmers. They're glad to show off their wares. They're glad to show that they're great caretakers of the land and great caretakers of animals. And that's really what I think a fair does, is to showcase that ingenuity and that thoughtfulness that they have.
Right, and we've struggled, and Farm Bureau has been with us on it over the years with the Farm Workers Labor Bill, which is a very, very bad thing for agriculture. And the other thing that I've always said about it is, not only the farmers don't want it, but the workers don't either, because they come here to work, and they want to work all the hours they can and go home to their homes, wherever it may be, with as much money as they possibly can.
Yeah, and the members of Farm Bureau appreciate your leadership on that a couple years ago when it was making its way through the Assembly, and making sure that the downstate legislators that you work with understood how bad it was. And you're right, it's an onerous bill. I think the people who are sponsoring it, who are supportive, they're trying to do the right thing, but the way the bill is written and what it would do would be detrimental to both, New York agriculture and detrimental to the workers that they're trying to help. Those workers that they're trying to help would just not be here anymore.
Right.
They wouldn't come here. They'd stay home and do something else, or they go to another state where the regulations aren't so onerous. So,
Go ahead.
so no, it's a major effort for us every year to make sure that we keep that focused and that bill at bay and people understanding our issue on that one.
Yeah, and it is extremely important. Like, take, for instance, I'm sitting here thinking about the apple growers.
Yes.
The apple growers depend heavily on that kind of labor. And the apple crop, when it's time to harvest, it has to be harvested.
Correct.
You can't put it off and wait till more.
When it's time to go, it has to go. And whether it's apples or whether it's cabbage or any fruits or vegetables, there's a time for those products to be harvested. There's a short window to get them harvested, and if you don't have the manpower to get them harvested, it's not going to happen. And A, the farmer loses out because he doesn't have the revenue coming in, and B, the consumer loses out because they're not eating a New York product, they're eating a California product or Washington State apple or a Michigan apple. So.
Just going back to this week is Farm Bureau Week in Albany. How many people do you expect from Farm Bureau to be here?
It's my understanding we're going to have upwards of 200 farmer members descending on the Capitol tomorrow, which would be Tuesday, and they'll be all over the LOB making our voices heard.
And on these issues that we've been talking about just a few minutes ago. Well, we always, every year, look forward to having the Farm Bureau come here, and 3 or 4 years ago, because of ethics, they couldn't do the
Right.
But it's back, and
It's back.
and it's great. It's really great.
Yeah.
You can spend hours walking through the booths that demonstrate New York farm products.
You're going to find New York dairy products, whether it be yogurt, cheese, milk. You're going to find pies. I believe the Kobelski University, their Culinary Arts Institute is up here. They're going to be showcasing their wares, and there'll probably be some wine product and beverages showcasing as well.
Yeah, the wine industry is another one that's up there high in numbers, and it's growing constantly. In fact, just got the first winery in my home county. Madison County got one recently. So
Do they have a Magee label yet?
No, it's not. It's Owagina, which is the name of Cazenovia Lake.
Okay.
And those things are, very important, and the more we can do, the apple growers have done a tremendous job over the last few years, and I think we rank high in that.
Absolutely. Number 2 in apples.
Number 1 in cabbage.
Number 1 in cabbage.
Yeah. So agriculture is important to New York, and it's been a pleasure working with the Farm Bureau to advocate for some of these programs. And we're seeing new innovative ways come about all the time. So, anything else you want to add? We're about out of time now.
I just want to thank you for your leadership in the Assembly Bill. It's always a pleasure when I get to come up and talk to you about our issues, and I know that I'm speaking to a friend and someone that understands us. And I know that when they come to the Assembly floor, that you're advocating and fighting for us. And I know, speaking for the members of New York Farm Bureau, we appreciate your leadership on our issues.
Well, I do enjoy working with the farmers. I come from an agricultural area, and I'm very, very pleased to represent that area for the last few years.
Good.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you for being here.